Go down the list of what the United States has given Ukraine so far, $13.6 billion. As David Ignatius said, just an extraordinary amount of arms flowing across the Polish-Ukrainian border. My sources high up in the administration and at the Pentagon telling me that there are weapon systems going over there that we don't even know about because they don't want Putin to know about them. And of course, that's the way it should be. Is there a growing sense of frustration at calls to do more when in fact, as the ambassador said, who agrees we need to do more, what has been done thus far is nothing short of historic. Let me say that again for people writing snarky op-eds about this administration and about Congress and about the United States response. What has happened over the last 3 weeks is nothing short of historic. And anybody suggesting that Donald Trump would have done any of this is please start your clown show somewhere else. We don't want to watch it. We don't want to hear it. Now back to the question, Jonathan.
Thank you. Is
Joe Biden getting frustrated at this point, despite this historic alliance, despite the historic aid flowing into Ukraine, that he is still getting attacked domestically?
Yeah, I posed this very question while at the White House yesterday to several administration officials, and the answer was there is some frustration from the White House towards domestic politicians, Republicans namely, but a few Democrats as well, who are promoting unrealistic scenarios, including that no-fly zone. But officials really stressed to me there's no frustration toward President Zelensky, who is, yes, asking for things that the President Biden can't provide, but they understand it. His country's very existence is at stake. They understand why he is doing so. Joe, I have some details here for what we're going to hear from President Biden today. He's going to speak in the hours after Zelensky makes his address to Congress. It's going to be $1 billion of aid. About $800 million of that is new. It's going to be, a lot of it is devoted towards anti-air, anti-armor weaponry, including the Javelins and Stingers that have proven so effective to this point against Russian vehicles. The president's going to talk about that today. He will know, aides know that Zelensky's going to ask for the no-fly zone again. He's going to ask for those jets through Poland. The answer, at least on the administration's side, is still no to this point, in part because they don't think those jets will be as useful as some of the weapons that they are providing, including these anti-aircraft devices. So we're going to hear that from President Biden today. They understand Zelensky, likely emotional, almost certainly will trigger Congress to be that much louder in pushing for the administration to do more, but they are pointing to what they've already done and say this is the correct approach, and they are trying to do it quietly, particularly now that Russia has said they're targeting convoys of weapons coming in from the West. They don't want to advertise that that stuff is coming. And one other note, the president, of course, a major symbol, heading to Europe next week to meet with NATO and the European Council. Officials also considering, not locked in, but considering a stop in Poland as well to give thanks to that country and visit with some of the Ukrainian refugees who have had to fled their homeland.
Richard Haass, I would agree. I think you would probably agree with the administration, also with Ambassador McFaul, that it really looked like amateur hour when you had some of our allies putting on websites about jets that they're going to take to our largest base in Europe. It is a positive development that we're now quietly moving weapons into Ukraine quietly, without press releases or great fanfare, getting weapon systems in that Vladimir Putin doesn't know about. I'm curious, though, from what you heard Jonathan say, we are going to be hearing from the president today. How does that sound to you? Is that enough? Do you have any suggestions about what else needs to be done?
No, again, Joe, it sounds right. We've got an indirect strategy. You can kind of look at the micro details of how many of this weapon system and all that. I think too much emphasis has been put on the planes, for what it's worth. They've almost become symbolic. But there's all sorts of other systems that can help you control what goes on in the air, various types of anti-missile systems and all that. So I don't, too many armchair strategists here, micro kind of managing or observing what's going on. But there's no argument what needs to be done, and I think people also understand now we're in a long war. I think at first everyone was talking about it almost as a kind of political demonstration of standing by Ukraine. And people understand now this is serious. We've got to have a pipeline that we can sustain for weeks, months, or however long it takes, however much we can push through it. So I think this is all good. Can I say one other thing? Listening to all these reports incoming, when this is all done, it'll be really interesting to do an intelligence assessment of how we all got so wrong the capabilities of the Russian military. All the assumptions were that they would come in like a knife through butter. They obviously are not. And it'd just be interesting to know, what did we have right and what did we have wrong, and what does this tell us going forward? What are the implications that we may have exaggerated what Russia could do? Does this mean we're right or not about other capabilities such as China's and all that? What does this mean for where we have to emphasize in the future in terms of military spending and deployments? I actually think this is a really important issue that's come up here.
It is an important issue, and we have seen what bluntly we've been saying on this show now for years, and that is, as a fighting force, the United States military stands alone. There's not a close second. We've said that time and time again. I remember the lead up into the first and second Gulf Wars. We heard about the Iraqis having the fourth largest military on the face of the earth. I remember seeing a Peter Jennings special where he took something and cracked a map that shattered all of the Middle East because the Iraqi fighting forces were going to be so strong. They were nothing compared to the United States military. And our men and women in uniform, this isn't jingoism.
No.
This is just the reality. We keep trying to tell people who watch this show domestically and across the world, and leaders do, there's not a close second. People need to stop underestimating the United States. They need to stop underestimating NATO. They need to stop underestimating the power of the United States and the EU combined together, over $40 trillion in GDP a year, the best weapon systems in the world, more importantly, the best fighters in the world.
Best people, the heart and the mind of the U.S.
And what we have in the West is something that Xi is learning about very quickly, because front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning shows China's economy sagging. Why is it sagging? Because he's moving away from the market reforms that China was trying to practice over the past 2 decades. He's becoming more autocratic. And guess what? Their economic output is going down. It's a closed society. It's not transparent. They have mishandled COVID from the very beginning. They have shut entire cities down because their lack of transparency. They haven't been able to confront COVID, just like they haven't been able to run their economy the way we can in the West.
And all these aspects have an impact on the fighting forces. I mean, nothing compares to a military that is fighting for democracy based on democratic values.
Fighting for freedom. Exactly.
Yeah, it's just no difference.
Fighting for freedom. Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.